Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Sideline Shenanigans podcast today with Jacob Magadan.
Dalton Phillips.
And of course, welcome back to another week of college football recap here, talking about some of the big games that happened this week. But obviously, if you're here, leave a like, comment, subscribe. Again, helps a ton. Boost the channel out. We're at 72 subscribers, moving on up in the world of trying to get to that 100 mark here soon. It would obviously be very, very fun to have that 100 mark if we got there when Dalton and Julio get to come back on here and go at each other here in a few
Yep.
weeks. Obviously, we're starting to dive right into these games, and I don't like covering Virginia because I hate them. But this is a game that has to be talked about because they played the most inspired version of Virginia football I've seen since the 2019 team. Played this game like they were the better football team. And again, their run game has been really good in every game this season. That's kind of the thing Virginia's priding themselves on this year is their ability to run the ball, rushing for over 200 yards in every game. Of course, this one, Taylor gets going. They have other backs that got going. Morris can scramble a little bit. He didn't play good in the passing game with 3 interceptions, but it ended up not mattering in the long run because that run game was so good. I mean, Florida State could do nothing to stop it. Then on the other side for Florida State, I don't think Thomas Castellanos played a bad football game. One of these 2 interceptions was the last pass of the game, so don't blame that on him much because he had to throw it up. It's fourth down. So, 1 touchdown, 1 interception technically in that one. And he didn't play the best game of his life, but he was their leading rusher. He was their leading passer. He was a playmaker in that game. And if you take away the running back fumble and the interception he throws to start the game, and they don't have that early momentum that UVA got, who knows if Florida State could have just pulled away with it and then kind of drowned out the momentum. And that seems to be what led this Virginia team was momentum and their ability to stick in the game. And we always say if a team that is worse than the other one, which I think on paper technically Virginia was a worse football team, they can hang in there, then they got the momentum, especially at home, that they can take it late. Deuce Robinson being the star on the other side for Florida State, but he has the biggest drop of the week, not making that catch in the end zone on a wide open touchdown. Dalton, what are your final thoughts on this one?
Yeah, UVA showed that they actually have a decent fan base, which I don't ever expect to happen ever again because UVA is notoriously bad at football, and that's like no shade at UVA. They're one of those teams that they just doesn't attract very many fans.
No.
And at this game, it was very important that they had a fan base behind them because this is that momentum game that when you're up on a huge team, a great team, and you do get up on them and you can stay up on them and especially in overtime. You've seen exactly those fans were already on their feet as fast as they got on the field and ran over Scroll White. They had to be like, I feel bad for Scroll White, but I also don't come back to Tennessee. You should have stayed at Tennessee, just saying. But I've never seen UVA fans so excited, and I feel like that's why they won this ball game.
Yeah, and again, they needed to be there. If you look at pictures of the stadium before the game, the student section showed out for them, but the fan base still really didn't even pack the building out, which is crazy
Yeah,
because
you're playing
you got a top 10 team coming
yeah,
in. It don't matter who you are. You should have a packed out building.
yeah.
This maybe wakes them up and brings fans to the stadium for them, but who knows if they even have enough to fill the stadium. So, again, obviously they do look a lot better this year playing, again, inspired football. And obviously that field storming, that hill that they have, which is their student section area, has no blocker, no fence, no wall to jump over, no. So I mean, they're immediate. It is a instant on the field because it is literally from that to the field. If you remember when we beat them 2 years ago, Bashal Tootin returned a touchdown and he ran up into the student section because we had Tech fans in the student section. So he ran up into it and was giving high fives to Tech fans. So that has been seen before, that the effects of positive and negative of what that hill can be for them. Obviously, super positive in this one. They get it done in a huge win. That last set of possessions there is what cost Florida State just not being able to contain them and not being able to put points on the board themselves. Moving on to our next one here, Georgia Tech taking on Wake Forest in what ended up being an absolute duel, a shootout, offensive side. Georgia Tech just starts really, really slow. They score 3 points in the first half compared to Wake Forest being able to put up 17. On top of that, Wake Forest does their normal halftime collapse, which then allows Georgia Tech to get back in the game. So it's funny because you get the tale of the two teams where Georgia Tech hasn't necessarily started super hot every game this year, but at the same time, Wake Forest always starts hot and then blows the lead. Again, NC State, they were up 24 to 17. They don't score another point in the second half. In this one, 17-3, score 6 points in the second half. So if they could just pull away in the second half of any of these games, they'd have massive wins under their belt. They're just unable to do so. Big injury news for Wake Forest. Robbie Ashford has a severe knee injury, or so it seems. He was very limited in that game. Once he did get injured, that is probably the reason that offense couldn't do anything else. Still played, still made plays, but just unable to run. Then Claiborne, of course, he's one of the most important parts of this team as well. Gets hurt on the touchdown run. And obviously that seems like it's going to be concussion protocol and potential for him to miss a game because of that. That is a kept thing now with the NCAA, with football in general, is they're very, very careful with concussions, and anything grants a sit out for at least a game or two. On the other side, Haynes King, what do you expect? He's the leading passer, he's the leading rusher, he is the offense. If he's healthy, this team is going to be good this year. They're going to win close games because Brent Key knows how to do that. If he gets hurt, this team is screwed, in my opinion. I don't think they have much of a chance without him playing. So they got to keep him healthy and they got to keep him up. But again, he shows that when it matters most, Haynes King can answer back and win games for you. Dalton, your overall opinions on this one?
Yeah, Claiborne is a stud. That guy's a Virginia guy that Tech should have probably pulled in because
Yeah,
he was
right,
a
please.
stud in high school. I was going to go watch him play up the road against Graham, the local team, and yeah, that guy's a stud. I feel like that was one of the main reasons they were in this game. He was running the ball like crazy. I actually like tuned in. This game was very entertaining. And Haynes King shows why he is, I think, one of my favorites for a Heisman right now.
Yeah,
He knows how to win ball games, and he's the guy that if you have the to have somebody with the ball in their hands, he needs it every single time.
yep. Yeah,
Because
you say,
they have a good backfield, but that guy is their offense.
yeah, and you hear him say all the time when you got to make a play, put it in the quarterback's hands. And this is a
Yeah.
situation where they literally do it every
Yep.
single time. I mean, 21 carries, 42 pass attempts. So
Yep.
this guy is the playmaker, the guy. Eric Rivers has a great game for them as well as Malik Rutherford. Wake Forest again, they got things going that just weren't enough to go in there and have a huge home game where they could have had a huge win. Maybe they got it stored in the field, but just unable to against a good Georgia Tech team. Moving into our next one here, this will obviously be diving into our picks for the week. And Arizona State gets a huge win here. TCU just blows this game late, has a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter, can't score, fumble inside their own territory on a really bad fumble from Josh Hoover. And that is the reason that Arizona State's able to get it done. They forced turnovers. They played good football for 4 quarters. They hung in there and got that comeback win at the very end. Their kickers struggled to make kicks in this game, missed 2 of them, but when it mattered most, he was able to come up clutch for him on a very short kick, an easy, like anybody can make it type of kick. But again, he got it done. You look at the stats: Hoover 20 for 32, 242, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, by far his worst game of the season. And then Sam Levitt, incredible game from him: 291, 2 touchdowns, really great in the rushing game, has a rushing touchdown. Sam Levitt looked like a Heisman contender. I wish this team had looked like this all year because again, I had this team as a contender in the Big 12, and they are finally figuring it out. And again, that doesn't leave them inability to do it. They just right now don't look like the top dog. Texas Tech probably does, but Arizona State, great win in the Big 12 here, and great way to jumpstart the Big 12 play. Obviously, being 2-0 now in that conference. Dalton, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this was a close game ball game here, but I believe with Sam Levitt also playing good, I think Riley Brown having 134 yards
Yeah.
that helps it out quite a bit too. The offense actually kind of got rolling here, which was something we were questioning because Sam Levitt had been like iffy. Like this guy was a Heisman contender at the beginning of the season. Like I had this guy in my top five for
Yeah.
Heisman. And also, I had Arizona State as one of my favorites for the Big 12. Maybe they're 2-0 there. I mean, they still can compete. They just have to show like this the rest of the year.
Yeah, exactly. They got to keep showing up like this. They
Yep.
can't lose those games that they lost early in the year. Like you said, Relic Brown, really impressive. Kyson Brown actually looks solid in some of his carries. Obviously, ends up not having the best day overall, though. They do look to use him a little bit more, and as you can tell, they're not using the whole backfield. Then you go down and look at the receivers. Jordan Tyson, I'm calling it now. This kid's a top 10 pick for sure. May even do a early mock draft coming up here soon. Kind of a thing that people like to do is midway through the college football season, when we don't know enough, we do those way too early just to see if we can predict some guys. This kid's incredible. I mean, he is unbelievable. And of course, you see Brown contributing in the receiving game as well. 9 catches, nine receptions, 21 carries. That's
He
30
had the ball in
touchdowns.
his hand 30 times.
Right,
That's
and they
great.
said the week before we're going to try to not let him use the ball, try to keep him healthy. But when you're in a 27-24 game, you give it to your best player, and they have multiple. Jordan Tyson, Riley Brown, Sam Levitt, incredible team overall. TCU, Big issue here, no ground game, ends up losing it for them. Arizona State gets a massive win in Big 12 play. Moving on to our next one here, USC taking on Illinois in what needed to be a massive bounce back game for Illinois, and they get it done here. They have a really, really great performance on offense. That's what's pushed them to the end of the game, got them in the victory situation, and they were able to capitalize and get it done. Of course, you look at USC's passing game. Jaden Maeva, we talked about how good of a quarterback he is. Great day, 364, 2 touchdowns, had the interception, but overall great play from him. But on the other side, it's answered by Luke Altmaier. 328, 20 for 26, incredible completion percentage, 2 touchdowns, does not turn the ball over. Really great day from him. Also has a rushing touchdown on the ground, does what he needs to do in the ground game. And again, they weren't able to get to him and sack him and make any plays. And once again, what have we always said? USC always has great offenses, but their defense lets them down. This is another game where you can't give up 34 points, and they let them down in this one. Overall, again, rushing attacks on both sides looking very similar. Waymon Jordan has a great day, 2 touchdowns on the ground, and then Caden Fegan, Khalil Valentine, Aiden Lafrey even. We talked about all the running backs that we'll use. Just again, really, really fun, competitive game. Dalton, what's your thoughts here on the stats and
Yeah.
game overall?
Yet again, another great game from this weekend. We're going to keep talking about more of them.
Yeah,
Illinois pulled through. I was questioning if they were going to. This USC offense is excellent.
yeah.
Jade Maeva. This team isn't. I mean, not a Big Ten contender right now, but they could maybe push towards that. Their schedule is not insanely hard, but like, I mean, one loss is kind of scary. But
Yes.
this is a good Big Ten football team looking for a big bowl game.
Had the ability to pull off a big win here. They had to have it. Again, Illinois, I mean, if they got embarrassed 2 weeks in a row, it would have been season over
Yeah.
pretty much. You go down and look at the receivers. One more name that just has to be mentioned. Makai Lemon took over for what was multiple transfers out of this USC receiving room. This kid is incredible. 11 catches, 151, 2 touchdowns, and every single time they needed a big play, they threw the ball to him. He is the absolute playmaker that they needed him to be. And just again, not enough because their defense just cannot make stops. Illinois is able to get it done here with a big win in Big Ten play. Moving on to our next one here, LSU taking on Ole Miss in Ole Miss's stadium. It was rocking. The fan base was definitely showing up for that one, as you expected that they would. But who didn't show up in this one? I don't think Garrett Nussmeier did. He didn't have the best day ever, and part of that could be that he had zero run game. His run game was abysmal. We talked about the lack of Caden Durham and how much that would hurt them. It hurt them way more than we even knew it could. This team could not run the football at all. Nussmeier didn't have the worst day ever, but this is not a Heisman contending quarterback that we expected him to be. He's lacking accuracy this year, not making the throws he was making last year. Again, overall, not to harp on him, he didn't have the worst day ever. He's still a good quarterback, but this is not Heisman worthy. Whereas on the other side, Trinidad Chambliss is Heisman worthy. He is playing at that level. If he'd have started the first 2 games of the year, this is a guy we'd be talking about as a Heisman probably with his overall season statistics. 314, a touchdown, does have the interception, but he makes up for that with his ability to rush, 14 for 71 on the ground. Just a great playmaker and easily the best quarterback option for this team. Once he took over, Ole Miss looks like a legit threat to win an SEC championship. I don't think a lot of people before the season started would have said they're that good. I think a lot of people thought they could make the playoffs, but man, this team is legit. They are super, super tough to play. And again, they have pretty much everything. They have the run game established. They have great receiving. They have a really good quarterback. And of course, they're coached really well by Lane Kiffin. Dalton, what's your overall thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Lane Kiffin pulled through with an offensive performance like I figured he would. I mean, that's what Lane Kiffin's known for. Is just he's an offensive minded guy, and LSU just kind of underperformed. I think it's because of Caden Durham not being there is a
Yeah.
huge thing there for them. Caden Durham's a heck of a playmaker. He makes plays like everywhere out of the backfield, in the backfield, and that's a kicker there. That's what's going to lose you ball games, especially against a tough opponent.
Yeah, and again, you talk about the offense, but mainly, what did Ole Miss's defense do?
Yeah.
They shut down LSU. They shut down a team that's looked really good this year. Overall, Ole Miss just looked like they outmatched them on both sides of the ball. And before this game started, I'd have told you that behind Miami, LSU had looked the best on both sides, and maybe you could argue they looked better than Miami, but they didn't in this one. Ole Miss looked better on both sides, and they're able to get things done. And again, Lane Kiffin's commitment to improving his defensive play is why you see him sitting at 5-0, 3-0 in SEC play, a top 10 team in the country, and why you see a guy like Lincoln Riley, who has always been an offensive guy that never got his defense going. Why do they lose games? Because they don't have a defense. Kiffin figured it out. His defenses are great. Moving on to our next one here, Texas A&M taking on Auburn in a game that just looked like A&M destroyed them, but then you look at the game and the score and you're like 16-10. That's all A&M won by, and you watch this game and it just looked like they were way better as the football team, but mistakes, Marcel Reed's interception, and again, just their inability to capitalize on every possession. But they still look like a top 10 team. Their defense was incredible. Their rushing attack was incredible. Two things we expect to come with these A&M teams. They're always really good at running the ball and playing defense. Marcel Reed does still have an okay day. You hate the interception. On the other side, Auburn, they have such a terrible, terrible offensive line up front. They cannot protect Jackson Arnold. This guy's running for his life every play. As you see, he has 15 carries for 11 yards because of sack yardage. Does have that rushing touchdown, but doesn't do much through the air, averaging 3.8 yards per pass, which is really bad. And just overall, I mean, A&M controlled this game, and although it wasn't a blowout, you can tell by looking even just the stats that it wasn't very close. Dalton, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Texas A&M ran the ball. Le'Veon Moss became the running back that I was hoping that he would. That guy's a stud, and he showed that. That having 140 yards in a game is no joke, and that guy showed me who he is, and that's why you win this ball game.
Yeah, and again, we talked about it last year. We talk about it again this year. He is a very important key contributor for this offense. He's finally showing up and doing things he has to do for them to get wins. And even behind Marcel Reed not having the best day ever, he's able to contribute. Now, he was sacked a few times. Giving props to Auburn's defense as they were able to keep him in this one. Again, you could tell who the better team was. You look at the receiving stats. KC Concepcion coming over from NC State, one of the biggest transfer additions in the portal. Really great game from him. Finally shows up for him. And then Mario Craver didn't do a lot, but he did enough. You just see overall that this defense, 5 more sacks on him, and that's 14 sacks over the last 2 weeks on Jackson Arnold. That's really, really bad. It's going to be hard to keep him healthy the way he runs as well. And we'll see what happens with Auburn the rest of the year, but A&M just keeps on rolling in SEC. Moving on to our next one here, Washington taking on Ohio State, and as I assumed, the team that just has way better talent was able to win this one. Ohio State didn't do a ton. They didn't look like they were levels, leaps and bounds better than Washington. Washington was able to hang in there and make plays. This Ohio State team is just so well rounded. They have the best receiver in the country. Again, he hasn't played like it as the best, but again, he's still talent wise the best. They have the best defensive player in the country, and they have a quarterback that's really stepped in and played the way he has to play. 208, 2 touchdowns, really great game from him, nearly a 90 QBR. And then the rushing attack, we talked about it. Bo Jackson finally got the lead carries in this game. He was the guy and goes and does what he's been doing all year. CJ Donaldson still getting those power back situations, goal line situations, scoring his 1 touchdown. And just again, this team is so scary when they have Jackson and Donaldson able to run the ball, Sayin playing the way he's playing and just keeping it safe, not turning the ball over. And then you have Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, and Brandon Ennis, 3 absolutely elite targets. And that's not even talking about Max Clare, who was one of the best tight ends in the country last year, now coming over and becoming a fourth target for Julian Sayin in this offense. This team is really, really deep. We saw a decent game from Jonah Coleman, just not able to get going and go crazy. And again, him being controlled, Damon Williams not having a crazy passing day. That's why Ohio State wins this one. Just an overall great offensive and defensive performance. Your thoughts here, Dalton?
Yeah, Ohio State is the best team in the country in my opinion. They're excellent on both sides of the ball. But honestly, don't count Washington out in any game anymore. Like this team, like them losing by this little bit to a Ohio State team that is very very good, really shows how good this Washington team is. And I think this team can compete in the Big Ten. I mean, I don't know if they're going to make a Big Ten championship, but who knows? They might make like one of them random playoff spots if they continue to win.
Yeah, and again, they have a quarterback that can do that.
Yep.
They have a coaching staff that can get them there. Again, this is a good football team for sure, but it just shows you how much better Ohio State is than normal, everyday good football teams. Moving on to our next one here, Indiana taking on Iowa. We knew this was going to be a close one. We talked about it. We said This is just exactly what we expected. Iowa was able to hang in this game because their defense was awesome. They were able to run the ball pretty well and just made things ugly, made things gross. And that's Iowa football. That is every single week what they do. And when they get that at home, they have an even better chance. They are not able to pull it off because Fernando Mendoza plays well again, does have the interception, but has the two touchdowns. Uh, and they're able to establish the ground game as well. Even though Iowa had a good ground game, Indiana's was better. And in the star receivers, they took over in this one. 6 for 132, 4 for 55. Both of them have touchdowns, Surratt and Cooper. And again, you just see that Indiana, overall, their game is really good. They have a super good defense on top of what is a strong offense. And Mendoza being the early Heisman candidate that he is, just leads them to a victory that was, again, really close, as we expected. Iowa doesn't have enough. Dalton, your thoughts here?
Yeah, the reason Iowa loses this game, they had two turnovers from the quarterback, and you can't have that playing football like Iowa plays. You
Yeah.
can't have two interceptions because your whole thing of your game is controlling the clock and being able to run the ball and not turn the ball over so you can keep good field position. That's what lets this Indiana team win here because if without those interceptions, you still probably have good yardage and you could punt the ball and you put them in a scarier spot
Yep.
and you're losing by 5 points. I would definitely say two interceptions is equivalent to more than 5 points,
Yeah.
in my
Yep.
opinion.
In the way they play field position
Yep,
battles, and usually have a pretty good special teams in general, kicking game and punting.
yep.
Again, that 2 points they get there at the very end is off of Fernando Mendoza
Running
sprinting
back. Yep,
backwards into the end zone for a safety. But obviously, Iowa was tied up. They had it tied up
yep.
going into the fourth quarter, and they're just not able to finish it off. Indiana shows their brass, their ability to win football games, and their coaching staff once again proves how good they are. And Cursing Daddy, man, every week we say it. All he does is win. Gets another one here in Big Ten play and becomes another top 12 team and one of the best contenders in the Big Ten right now. Moving on to our next one here, Oregon taking on Penn State in what was an overtime thriller where we saw some really incredible defensive plays. One being the final play of the game where Dylan Thieneman makes an unbelievable interception to win it for Oregon. He was one of the biggest transfer portal additions for this team. They knew they needed to add a deep guy to play safety for them. And when it matters most, that transfer addition makes the biggest play of the game. Oregon, once again, always going to have a good offense, but those defensive plays is what really won it for them. And then Penn State, they didn't really do what we thought they would do. This ground game behind Katron Allen, not all that impressive. Nick Singleton, 11 for 21, absolutely shut down in this game. That proves how good Oregon's defensive front is. I think we all knew they could be that good, but man, they're even better than people thought. And then Drew Aller, just not as good as you want him to be. He didn't have a horrible football game, but you got to have more than 137 passing yards in this game. And I know that's not the way that they want to play football, and they were letting him run some design runs, and he actually did pretty well doing that. And he made plays, but just that game-losing interception was a predetermined pass thrown straight into a safety's hands that made an incredible play. And once again, Penn State just doesn't win these super close big-time games, even the ones they get at home in a whiteout. Dalton, your thoughts here?
Yeah, this was just a case of the game was too big for Penn State. In my opinion, Penn State has to be able to run the ball, and they did not show that they could do that. When you have two of the best running backs in the country and you have one averaging 1.9 yards per carry, something's wrong.
Yeah.
And this team should be way better than what they are. And then don't get me wrong, this Oregon team's good, but this
Yeah.
Penn State team should be 25 times better than this
They should
Oregon
be
team.
better. Yes.
Yeah,
They are more experienced. They
yeah,
have way more returning talent. They have a coach that's just been doing it for longer at that level. They have, again, we've talked about multiple returners on this offense. They only improved their receiving room, adding Trevor Pena. And again, they looked outmatched in that overtime period. The play that, again, Dylan Thieneman made was incredible, getting that interception, of course. And again, Penn State, like you said, we talked about it on the podcast before. We both picked them. We said, man, we think it's finally time for them to do it. It just doesn't seem that it is. They just cannot do it. They cannot get these huge victories against the Oregons, the Ohio States, and the Michigans of the world. Moving on to our next one here, Alabama goes into Sanford Stadium and ends that 33 game home winning streak that Georgia had. Of course, Georgia, their kryptonite is Alabama. They have been unable to beat Alabama in 10 of the last 11 matchups. The only one they won was a national championship game. Of course, Georgia at that point in time had a really, really great roster and just proved that they belonged and won that one. But since then, man, Kirby just cannot get this Alabama team. This is not even the Saban Alabama team. And this is an Alabama team that I think we all talked about after week one and said, man, that they don't look as good as they have in the past. But their quarterback play has improved a lot. Their run game got better. First half was pretty nice. Second half was abysmal and bad, and that's when they stopped scoring points. So I think that's the answer for Alabama is just run the football well, and you're going to be able to win games because in that second half they truly should have blown it. Unable to score a single point, but Georgia just contained. Alabama does a great job on defense. Gunnar Stockton showed his inability to make big time plays, and it's funny because against Tennessee he was making those
Yeah.
throws. He was throwing for 300 yards, and that didn't look like him in this game. His first instinct was always to tuck it and run. The situation, the game was just too big for him, and it's kind of worrying that he played better on the road than he did at home. That should be where you feel the most comfortable. And it felt like the moment was too big, and maybe he heard the footsteps of Alabama creeping up on him and saying, "Man, we can't beat this team. We just can't beat them." And yet again, they cannot beat them. Georgia even established the ground game. Chauncey Bowens has an incredible day, 12 for 119 and a touchdown. Nate Frazier again does okay on his 4 carries. Dylan Bell has an end around that goes for a ton of yards. Stockton doesn't even look bad on the ground. This was a great rushing performance from Georgia, and they're still not able to get it done. It is very concerning for Georgia moving forward if they play teams that play these similar types of style of offense. And again, for Alabama, Ty Simpson looked great in this game. Again, second half less impressive, but a lot of that has to do with his rushing attack just not getting going, and their defense was able to contain Georgia. And really, really great performance from Alabama to get a win here. Dalton, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Alabama just won this game right off the gate. If they wouldn't, their offense was so excellent, and Ty Simpson was just like this guy was throwing lasers, and I'll never
Yeah.
compliment Alabama, but he looked like a Heisman caliber quarterback in the first half. That guy was making perfect throws everywhere, and Jam Miller was making plays, which is the guy they were lacking.
Yes.
And that's even with Georgia having a crazy good running game. Running for 230 yards as a team is great.
Great.
You
Yes.
would think usually when you see that, you think that oh they won the game. No, they just couldn't like come up with it, and I believe Gunnar Stockton was just the moment was too big for him.
Yes. You may ask yourself, why didn't they
Yeah,
run the ball more? Why didn't
yeah.
they run the ball
Chauncey Bowens is an athlete and a half.
again?
That dude is huge, and
Yes.
he is one of the fastest big
Yeah.
guys I've ever watched.
And
Like
the question to be asked is, why
nuts.
does this guy not have
Yeah.
more than 12 carries in this
Why
game?
does he not have 20 carries?
Yeah. When he's averaging
Yeah,
10 yards per carry, your
yeah,
team is averaging 7. How does he not play more? How do you not give him the ball
yeah.
more? They do get Zachariah Branch going in this one a couple times, and you saw his playmaking ability. And heck, he made an incredible catch on a third down where he took 2 or 3 shots in the air, was pinballing around. And then, of course, the most fun story of this entire game is Caden Proctor caught the wildest play that I've seen in a long time. We talked about how they got Ryan Grubb back, and this offense was going to get better. It's gotten better. They've got more unique play calling, better things to do. And Caden Proctor, again, second on that Bruce Feldman freak list, shows why. He's an offensive lineman out there catching it and immediately turning and getting upfield and almost scores, lays
Yeah,
out and
that's a good way to tear that guy's ACL. That's a really good way to do something like that with
it's
a big guy
scary for
moving like that.
him. It's scary
Yes,
for him to be out there doing that. But again, I
he
think
loved it though. I'm sure he loved it. Big guys love stuff like that.
and they've said they're going to use him to do that more often. They said that he's just too much of an athlete to
Yeah,
never use him in any situations. We might see him
yeah,
lined up at fullback sometime this year,
yeah.
get a carry on the goal line or something. I don't know what they're going to do with him, but that guy does seem like an absolute freak. Hence the reason he was on that freaks list. Another big thing here: both offenses played really good in the offensive line category, only allowing 1 sack on both sides. These are defensive lines that are really strong and defensive units overall that are really strong. So neither pass rush able to make any kind of big time plays. But once again, Alabama was just that much better than Georgia, as they have seemed to be over the last 11 years, or over 11 years. They haven't played each other every year for the last 11. It's been a long time, probably the last 20 years. Alabama just has that slight edge over Georgia, no matter how good or bad they are, no matter how good or bad Georgia is. Moving on to our next one here, Tennessee taking on Mississippi State in what was a really, really great football game that goes into overtime. As you can tell, you look at the stats, Joey Aguilar does not have the day he wants to have when it comes to his turnovers, his interceptions, but does have 330 yards and a touchdown, really great through the air. One of those Chris Brazzell catches too was just absolutely stellar. We were watching that one, and me and Dad were both like, "Holy crap, he made that catch!" It was a really great catch. You look at Mike Matthews, of course, as well. 6 catches, 118. Also has a really great game for them and gets going. Then you look at the rushing attack. They don't do as much on the ground as they probably would have liked to have done, but it was enough. They are able to score 2 touchdowns on the ground, one from Aguilar, one from Bishop. And then on the other side, of course, Mississippi State. Blake Shapen plays a pretty good game. Not a ton of passing yards. Does have that interception. But the real story that the reason Mississippi State was in this one is because they absolutely killed it on the ground. Fluff Bothwell is really, really great. I told you that going into it, that he was definitely the thing to worry about with this football team. Devon Booth is also a pretty good back as well behind him. But again, Bothwell, 2 touchdowns, 134, averaging nearly 6 yards per carry. And a lot of these rushing yards, this would be well over 200 if it wasn't for Shapen getting -20 from the sacks that Tennessee was able to get on him. So great game from them on the ground. But again, Tennessee is able to get it done in overtime with a really big, important win here. Dalton, what's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Tennessee played really good, and both of Aguilar's picks were not his fault. I will go and say that. Miles Kitselman, we kind of sucked it up that game. That one of them was, but actually both of them were like okay, like balls that you should catch, and they go right off his hands up in the air and picked off.
What do
And
you say?
it just,
Tips and overthrows
yeah,
lead to interceptions.
yeah, and I mean, this was just like we played good offensively, and our defense played even better.
Yeah, defense
Like
was great.
getting to the because Blake Shapen was absolutely dotting us up and at one point, and then guess what? Then we started getting to him, and like the strip six, we also scored 2 touchdowns on defense. That
Yeah.
was excellent, and air defensive line showed out, and Colton Hood also had that pick six. I'm pretty positive it was Colton Hood. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it was Colton. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was Colton Hood, and that was a transfer corner. Came from Colorado, big portal guy, but our defensive line clutched up to win us the ball game because he was just shook at that point. He was getting hit left and right, and it was just like he couldn't complete a pass at that point, and that's when I realized we had won the football game because it was scary at one point, and
Yeah.
I was
When he
like, "Oh
goes to
my
overtime.
gosh!" And this Mississippi State team is no joke either. This
No,
team, it's a good football team.
they were
They
able to build.
Yep. This is the best Mississippi State team I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, and again, they have really solid
Yep.
quarterback play. Shapen playing pretty good for them. But again, this running back room, when they went out and got Fluff, I knew this team could turn around if they just put things together. Obviously, they've done that, but Tennessee was too much. Obviously, you're still looking for Tennessee to get back their corners. They need them. You still had 34 points put on you, but your defense did play pretty good when it comes to they scored 2 touchdowns. You can't ask a lot more out of a defense. You wish you hadn't give up 34 points. But again, tough environment going into that stadium where they get to sit there and ring a bell for 4 hours, whatever it is the game went because it
And
does
by the
go to
way,
overtime.
they gave out kettlebells to every one of their fans. But
Yeah,
that's pathetic
they're
because
committed to it.
Tennessee fans were going to bring them in, and they heard about that, so they gave them to every one of their fans at the door.
Yeah.
So that's that. I think they need to stop that. That's getting a
They're
little
committed
ridiculous.
to it.
That's
This is a whole thing. This is their again. It's questionable why they get to do it and nobody else does. But
cheesy.
uh,
We're still louder than them and Neyland.
yeah, well, yes, the people difference definitely makes a
Yeah.
big difference there. Moving on to our next one here, our last and final one. Obviously, I finally got to be happy on a Saturday. We got to beat Wofford, but I knew that wasn't going to happen, even no matter how good or bad we were. They're horrible. But this is a really great win. Going into NC State territory, which is one of the better home field advantages in the ACC. They're probably up there with Clemson, Virginia Tech, Florida State. You're talking about some of the best fan environments. NC State is always selling. I think they've sold out every game the rest of the year. So that's even with losing this one and moving down to 3-2. They're sold out. So they have that home field advantage. They have a really great environment. But to give props to Tech fans, I obviously didn't go to this one. I'll be in attendance for Georgia Tech in 2 weeks, but they were still chanting "Let's go Hokies," and that's how you know how good of a fan base you have is when you're in a really good, strong fan base in NC State, and you still have "Let's go Hokies" chants rolling out over the TV where you can still hear them. Obviously, Tech is a completely different football team than they were 3 weeks ago. This team is better than ODU, and we were able to go in there and beat them in their stadium. This is just culture change, coaching change, and personnel change. We have made massive improvements on all three stages. Kyron Drones plays pretty good football, but again, the completion percentage not super high, but that's just not the kind of quarterback he is. If you've ever watched him play, he shouldn't have thrown the ball 34 times. We were able to get it done, and it didn't end up mattering. But Terrion Stewart is the story. This is your second leading rusher in college football this week, a guy that I was praising from day one. You know, we even did our portal
Yep.
video way back in the summer, and I said this kid is an absolute difference maker and will replace that gap that not all the way because he's not as good as Tootin. He can't do as much, but he's going to refill it a lot. And just the other guys have to fill the rest of that, which is the receiving part of things. And Marcellus Hawkins has done great in that side. So now that we have two running backs going, we have a quarterback who's more confident than he's been the entire season. This team is starting to roll. This is starting to look like a team that had talent. There was no question we had talent. We had a 10th ranked on three portal in all of football. So they had talent. They just were not coached well at all. And now you've got a guy coming in who he's showing passion on the sidelines. The guys are wanting to play for him. Aiden Green, good game from him. Cam Seldon gets going in this one, and he's getting to play more now. Isaiah Spencer getting to play more on the outside. Donovan Green, he showed that, again, he can make plays still, but he just dropped way too many passes. If he doesn't drop those, this could be even more. And of course, I mentioned the Marcellus Hawkins touchdown that he had through the receiving game. But just overall, great, great team performance. The defense gets after CJ Bailey. He had only been sacked 4 times all year. We sacked him 5 times in this game. So you talked about Tennessee and how they made a difference in that game. That's the same way it started for NC State. They got things going through the passing game, and Tech said, screw that. We're not sitting back and waiting around. We're going to go after him and make him make plays. We were able to cause disruptions, cause havoc. Both teams played really clean football, too. Not a ton of penalties, not any turnovers. But Tech is able to get it done in a really, really impressive performance. You look at NC State, CJ Bailey, once again, one of the better quarterbacks in the ACC. Really great completion percentage, 240 yards, 2 touchdowns, but when it mattered most, we were able to shut him down. This is the most impressive stat of the evening. Not the 5 sacks, not Terrion Stewart. Well, Terrion Stewart most impressive, but defensively for sure. We held Hollywood Smothers to 67 yards. He hadn't been held under 100 yet in a game this year. As you know, when we looked at the stats, over 500 rushing yards coming into this one. Virginia Tech holds him to 4.2 yards per carry, which is way lower than his season average, and only 67 yards. No touchdowns. Does not find the end zone in this game. That is the storyline. Is Virginia Tech defensively, where was this defense? Because this defense shows up against ODU, we beat them, and this defense shows up in the second half of Vanderbilt, we could have beat them, and they've looked great this year. I mean, we're 20-10 at halftime. It just didn't show up in the second half. Halftime adjustments were made. We win our first Power Four one-score game in 4 years. We win our first one-score game. We only won one under Pry, 1-12 or 1-14 or some crazy record. Philip Montgomery now 1-0. So maybe they found something here. Maybe they're able to go out and play against teams that are in likewise on talent, but also fan bases. It just feels really, really good to get a win here, obviously on the backs of Terrion Stewart and that defense. Dalton, your thoughts here?
Yeah, y'all established in the run game has made y'all tremendously better.
Yeah,
Like
way better.
it's noticeably better. And y'all, like you said, your defense played excellent. I did not think Tech was going to win this ball game, like
Yeah.
at
I
any
mean,
point.
as a Tech fan, I knew we could lose this one. So,
Yeah, NC State is a good football team. This is a huge win for y'all. Huge win.
yeah.
You're undefeated in the ACC
Hey,
and the ACC title in the way.
anything to
Maybe.
go. Tough
But
schedule though. I mean, at the
yeah, oh
beginning of
yeah,
your
you play Miami, so
right. You got to
yeah,
play Miami. You got to
yeah,
play Louisville, who is
yeah,
undefeated right now. You got to play Florida State at Florida State. And although they lost to Virginia, that's still a strong team. You saw
yeah,
what Alabama did to Georgia.
yeah.
And you still got to play Virginia at Virginia. And again, that's a team we've owned, but they clearly have a better football team this year than they've had in about 5 years. Last but not least, just a fun statistic. This is what we call the transitive wins section of this thing. Virginia Tech beat NC State. NC State beat Virginia. Virginia beat Florida State. Florida State beat Alabama, and Alabama beat Georgia. And
But
it means
Tech's
this
the
team
best
right
team in
here
the
is the top five
country.
team in the country. Top five team in the country right here. Once we got things going, baby, we're ready. We're rolling. Transitive win segment. Also, that does mean ODU would have beat Georgia. So transitive wins, very fun to look at, obviously.
I heard ODU is getting ranked in the top
As
five
things
next
go,
week.
yes, ODU would be one of the best teams in the entire country. Hey, they are still looking very good. Of course, they did just get a 21-7 win over Liberty where they were dominant. So, again, I said this ODU team was better than Wake Forest and Cal. I think that still stands, that ODU team is better than Wake Forest and Cal. Now, Wake Forest played better this week, but they collapsed in the second half routinely. Last but not least, another guy that has to get some love. John Love. To get some love, John Love. This dude is now the fifth most accurate kicker in college football history. He is also the only active kicker over 90% in his career. He is ice in his veins. He kicks a 43-yard field goal. Team gets a false start. He has to kick another one. Money doesn't matter. 49 doesn't matter. That's easy range for John Love. He's missed one kick all year, and it was 56 or 58. Take that back, 58. So, hey, Luke Rose Award, line it up and hand it to him right now. This kid's ridiculous. I'm so glad Tech has him. He also has more years of eligibility. So keep on coming back. Tech does produce a lot of very good kickers. Randomly, one of the best things we do is produce kickers. We got a lot of them in the NFL right now. But just again, I said this to Julio. I talked to Dalton too. I said we all got to win this week. Everybody gets to be happy with a victory, and it just feels nice for Tech to actually show up. And again, you said it. This NC State team's better than us, or was coming into the game, and we just proved we can actually hang in there with some teams. Just wish this could have happened from week one because this team proved they have talent. Thank you guys so much for joining us this week. Obviously, a really good, fun recap right there. Talked about a lot of very important games. We saw a very important one in the Big 12, Arizona State going undefeated so far. Seeing Alabama bounce back after what was a rough start to the year in that Florida State loss, but now they've got a huge win over Georgia and look like one of the teams that can control their destiny in the SEC. Ole Miss looks incredible. Tennessee gets a huge win in overtime. And of course, my boys in the back there, you see the flag. Virginia Tech finally gets a huge win. And what feels like one of the most important wins we've had in 40 years, which is just crazy to say. So really fun overall week for everybody involved in this one. Dalton, if you got anything else you want to add, your time's now.
Yeah, it's bye week, but still go Vols.
Of course, of course. And on my side, we do play Wake Forest at home. I don't think Wake Forest is on that same level as NC State, so I am excited for that when we do get that home field advantage there as well, which I think the fans will show back up. I think the fans are bought into this guy, and it's crazy because Tech fans they will get on board so fast because they just love the team. They love the team, the
The
university.
atmosphere, honestly, the
Yeah, they
atmosphere
love
at
it.
Tech is
Like
just great.
Tech fans love it. They will like you just got to do one thing. Be a little bit successful and they'll love you. So, I think that's also why this job is so enticing for a coach is you're going to come in here and people are going to love you. Like Dan Mullen gets hired, he don't even have to win a first game. People will love him. People are going to love him immediately. Because look at Brent Pry. When we hired him, the second we hired him, we loved the guy. So, that's something you might not get at one of those SEC jobs where people are immediately going to want you to win 10 games.
Hate you. You got to win games
They
for
do.
your
They
commitment.
hate you immediately,
Yeah.
and so that does entice potentially some of these coaches. And again, we're going to get that money, and that's the big deal. BOV meeting, 30th of September. That is tomorrow. So as you guys are watching this video, that will be today, the Tuesday, the 30th. Tech will know if they're going to be in the top 15 in budgets of college football. Just an unreal improvement. What will allow them to hire a coaching staff that can drastically improve this program and take us in a completely different direction. But what also makes us one of the most appetizing jobs on the market because if we can throw $9 to $10 million around to anybody, that money talks. Money talks big time. It doesn't matter how much the job looks pretty. The money really will talk. So obviously looking forward to that happening. Join us on Thursday. We will have our picks out. Another great week of college football. Like you said, Vols are taking a break, so we'll have 9 games that are not our favorites this week. So a little bit different. Not only going to have my team on there, and maybe we'll bring somebody on that is a Tech fan as well to get a little Tech talk because we will only have that one favorite on this week. But again, thank you guys so much for joining us. Love you guys tuning in. Like, subscribe, comment helps a ton. Push the video out, and obviously that's the thing I've seen is on the analytics when I dive into it those videos that we get more attention to and more people talking and people liking and that helps those videos get out to more people and obviously we've had some good content come out so far. Dalton, again, I don't know what else you plan on doing. I think we can get a Heisman video out, maybe that mock draft where we're in the middle of the season. You'll
Yep.
hop on there with us. Is that a thought you
Yeah.
can?
Yeah, I'm down to do it.
All right, we'll get Dalton hopping on a mock draft. We didn't have him but for one of those last year, so that'll be fun. Probably have probably try to get Hoppy, Joey, Julio, me, Dalton, just have a crazy group of people getting on for a mock draft here in a couple weeks or maybe a week or so. So that might be really fun. So look forward to that too. Thank you guys so much for joining us and peace.
Peace.